It's time for Michigan's retirement coach, Mike Douglas.
Let's talk about opportunity that folks have and or are looking for, because over the last few years, things like money markets, CDs, and annuities have been put up on a pedestal, Mike, and that's thanks to higher interest rates that we have seen. And it's been a great opportunity for retirees in particular. Now, if you're young and looking to buy a house or a new car, it's a bit of a different story, but we're talking to you close to retirement or in retirement. So when interest rates started coming down, you listening to us on Wood Radio, you might have thought to yourself, oh no, I missed the opportunity. I waited too long, but maybe not, because the current economic conditions have now pushed the 10-year yield to a 20-year high. So can you clarify what that means and how that allows the window of opportunity to remain?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reality is when interest rates are high, fixed interest things do well. So what are fixed interest things? CDs, annuities, treasuries, those things do pretty well. Yeah. And typically you'd see those be counter to a stock market that's positive, but we're in an interesting spot. I had a couple come in. They both recently retired. They had done everything right, saved very consistently. They avoided a lot of big mistakes, and they built a solid nest egg. But the husband looked at me and he said, I don't sleep the same anymore. Every time the market drops, I feel like I'm one bad year away from messing this whole thing up.
Yeah.
And so now we're seeing a lot of people, whether it's through the Iranian conflict or different things in life, they're saying, what can my fixed rates get me? So for 23 and 24, people ran to CDs. Even money markets were kicking out 4 to 5%.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah.
It's a crazy time. And while people felt like, man, I'm making really good money, the reason rates were so high was because inflation was so high. So your life got more expensive. So the Fed raised rates to try and counteract the inflation. And so the bank was paying out. So people said, man, I wish I could get those bank rates again. But that came with 9% inflation. So it's not a free gift. And the reality is that you still are going to be dependent on your portfolio in retirement to help carry you through. And so when this couple came in and the husband told me, he said, I'm not sleeping the same. I'm afraid of stock market drops. And I don't want a 30% correction to change my life. They had planned to retire and just enjoy life. They wanted to travel. Another big thing was time with their grandkids. But instead, he found himself watching the market almost every day and second guessing when they would spend money. That's not the life we want to live. You don't work for 30 years and 40 years and save, and one day you retire. And then all of a sudden you count your pennies and you're checking your bank account before you go to the grocery store. Like, we don't want to do that. That's not how we're supposed to live. They basically assumed that they had missed the window when rates were higher, because in 23 and 24, rates were pretty high and annuities were paying out high rates and CDs were paying out high rates. But when they looked at today's environment and we walked through it with them, we kind of helped them realize that you could still take a portion of your savings, commit it to a fixed income vehicle, and create reliable monthly income, a stream that does not run out, can never go down, and is contractually guaranteed, one that doesn't depend on the market. So for them, that brought them some peace of mind. We took a portion and put it over into an indexed annuity, and it made sense for them. Again, not the whole thing. And if someone tells you put the whole thing in there, run.
Okay.
But the reality is sometimes it makes sense. And for them, the peace of mind that came from taking a portion of their portfolio, committing it to fixed income, getting a guaranteed, reliable monthly income that's backed by an insurance company, it gave him some peace. A few months later, he comes in and tells me, I finally feel like I can breathe again. So that's what retirement's supposed to be. It's supposed to feel like something good. So you don't need perfect timing. You need peace of mind. We're not trying to, cherry pick the market and time it perfectly. We're not trying to, be the Nostradamus or the Oracle and figure all these things out. The reality is this: higher rates means you can get bigger, more predictable income, especially valuable when you're entering into retirement. And it helps create stability during uncertainty. Now, when the market's good and things are going well, your market portfolio is going to do well and perform well. But what do you do during a pullback? And it's so funny. I just met with some children of one of my clients this week, and they are 30 and 31.
Okay.
And as I'm talking through their retirement plan with them, again, it's a whole different view than my 65-year-olds. And most of my clients are in their 60s, but this is the child of a client. And so we're helping them out. And they said, well, I said, when do you think you'd like to retire? And they said, I don't know, 50, 52. And I said, hold on, you guys don't have a clue about how long I work to do this. You guys are cute. And then we kind of walked through it with them. And I said, not only do you need to make sure you have enough savings, but also when you get to a certain phase of life, your work brings you purpose and you can do something. And these are interesting conversations we had to walk through with them. And, again, whether you're 30 and you're investing and I told them, I said, the markets are down. That's a great thing for you. You need to invest into a down market. Mm-hmm. Markets are up. Keep jumping in, keep investing in your 401k, or you're a retiree. You just want life to be the way you've planned, and you don't want a bad time in the market to take it away. Mm-hmm. If you're like my clients that I mentioned, if you're like people who come in and say, I'm just nervous about things and I'd like some more stability, and you want to see how you could still benefit from high income payouts and high things, give us a call. And maybe you say, well, I've heard about annuities and I don't know the good or the bad, or someone just proposed one to me and I'm not sure if it's a good one. Can someone take a second look at that and let me know?
Yeah,
absolutely. We can help you understand it. Give us a call, 616-512-2127, or reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com. And we'll reach out. We'll get a time set up for us to review why you think it makes sense for you to have an annuity, why it makes sense for you to get some guaranteed income. We'll compare, see what notes we have on the ones you're maybe being proposed, or if you're looking for something new, we can help you there too. So just give us a call, 616-512-2127, and we'll set up a time for us to talk and just hear what you're looking for and answer your questions. I think people miss it sometimes when the focus and the trust is just in some big box giant financial firm. Mm-hmm. Big box firms focus on growing your money.
Yep.
Independent advisors focus on turning your money into income you can live off of. So when you go to a big box firm or a major thing, you're going to maybe meet with the same person a couple of times. A lot of times you end up on an 800 number dealing with somebody who's not from here in West Michigan, who's not understanding the life here that we live. Mm-hmm. And they're just going to give you some generic advice. All right, well, you could take out 4% probably, and the market should be okay enough to make it last 30 years. And that's kind of a very generic advice versus sitting down with someone and saying, hey, what does your summer look like? What does your winter look like? Are you down south during the cold months? Are you up north at the cottage? Are you on the lake? What are we doing? And how do we make that thing work consistently for you? How do we take the risk out? How do we take the stress out of retirement and get you secured income? Don't let someone just sell you on products or on their big box portfolio that you have to use their investments. Work with someone who truly understands what it means to retire in Michigan, what it means to retire at your particular goals and lifestyle. And it's just so interesting. We sit down with people all the time, and people have so much in common, and yet they're still unique. We get people who call in from this program all the time. And as I sit down and hear their stories, I'm amazed at how, man, everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everybody has different needs, different income goals, different growth goals. But yet we have some similar basic things. We want to feel safe. We want to feel secure. We don't want the market to rip away what we've saved. Mm-hmm. And we want to not make a mistake today that costs us 20 years from now. Can we live a life that is like that? Absolutely. So while your situation is unique and we build something from the ground up for you, just to understand the why and the how is really important.
Okay.
So when people are listening and they're saying, I'm not sure if I'm in the right spot, the market's concerning me, or I've been talked to about annuities, I've been pitched annuity, or I've been thinking about getting an annuity, and you just want to understand if it makes sense, because it does not make sense for everybody.
Right.
Not at all.
Right.
There was a couple that came to one of our events just recently. He has 2 pensions and she has a pension, and
nice.
They both have Social Security.
Okay.
So I said, how much income do you need? They said, less than we're getting.
Okay.
So if you have great income and you have low expense needs, they didn't need an annuity, but yet they had gone to a workshop, heard someone pitch it and being told they needed annuities. And I said, you don't need one. I don't know why you do that. Let's build the portfolio appropriately for what you want to do. So it just depends on your situation. And that's what we want to hear. If that's who you are, you'd like an individualized retirement plan that walks through your income, your investments, your taxes, your risk, your estate plan, checks off all these boxes. It says, we are in the right spot, or we're on the way to getting right. Mm-hmm. Give us a call and we'll walk you through that. 616-512-2127, or reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com.
We open up 5 spots on Mike's calendar every week for radio listeners. So give us a call. Let's set a time to begin the conversation. Just you and Mike on the phone is where it starts. And by the way, it's no fee, no obligation, initial conversation. But you do need to put a time on Mike's calendar so that he can call you back and you can have this conversation with him. So it's 616-512-2127. Give us a call right now. We've got a teammate standing by off the air to help you set a time on the calendar to start that conversation with Mike. If you are near or have just retired, if you've saved at least $500,000, that's where you're really going to see the power of this kind of planning take effect. And at Life Plan Financial Design, Mike and his team, they are here for you to show you what your opportunities are, what you may or may not need, because while we all want the same things, to be confident, to feel safe, to feel comfortable in our retirement, every single plan they build is unique to that person. So let's start the conversation about your plan. 616-512-2127. All right, thinking about the people that you meet with and everybody needing their own individualized plan. Everybody also comes with their own life story, which translates into their own individual questions. As a proud parent of 4 children, you guys, you don't have babies in the house now. Your youngest, Emmy, is 11? 12, 11?
She's 10.
10? Okay. Sorry.
Yep.
I apologize. I didn't mean to age her faster than she is.
You're killing me, Heather. They're already growing too fast.
I know. But you and Kimberly have got 4 kiddos in the house, so you are well versed on the barrage of questions that can come to you at any point.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
The day. There was this study came out that I knew you would love. I knew you were going to read this. And actually, I'm wondering, because it says the average parent with a young kid answers 46 questions a day. When all of your kids were little, when they were all below the age of 10, how many questions did that average out for you and Kimberly in a day?
We used to call it popcorn. We'd get in the car and we'd be driving. And then like Gavin would ask a question and we would answer it. And then Caleb would ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
And then we'd answer that. And then Zachary and then Emmy. We called it popcorn. Like, not a game. It wasn't like, hey, let's do popcorn.
It just would happen. You and Kimberly named it popcorn. They're popcorn.
It's just pop, pop, pop. There's question after question. And again, they're just interested and exciting about the world. But man, it is exhausting sometimes.
know.
And even now, Emmy's 10.
Yeah.
And we'll be sitting there. We'll talk about something that has nothing really to do with her. And she'll ask a question just to ask a question. And so I still try to answer them, but sometimes I say, why are you asking that?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good thing to think to yourself, Emmy. Why did I even need to ask that question? But it's just kids' nature. They're inquisitive. They're learning the world, and it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't mean it's less fatiguing. It's exhausting.
Well, and then, of course, we learn the lessons of life, and then we get to the place where we are in retirement, and maybe we suppress down, we push down the questions that, in fact, we have every right in the world to be asking. This study went on to show that parents admit they can't answer 35% of the questions that they get asked on a daily basis. So all the answers that parents are expected to have, are supposed to have, even they do not have them. As you listening to this radio program already know, as a parent, you don't have all the answers. It is not a bad thing. We are all human. In fact, admitting you don't know is where a lot of learning begins. So when it comes to the folks you work with in the office, they come to you, maybe it's the first meeting, they've got questions about what's going on. What are some of the more common questions that you hear from folks? And in your opinion, are they the right questions? Are there questions that people are not asking that you think that they should be?
Yeah, it was funny that couple I was talking about who came in and they were concerned and the market was going to turn down. When we first sat down, I asked them kind of, what do you want to cover? What do you want to learn? And they said, we don't even know what to ask.
Yeah.
We just know something doesn't feel right.
Okay.
And that's a tricky one. It's more common than you think because they didn't come in asking about tax strategies or brackets or withdrawals. They were asking things like, are we going to be okay? Can we actually spend this money? What happens if something goes wrong? Are we screwing up our future by considering going on this vacation? Very common things. They're not technical, but they're definitely the right questions because at the end of the day, the life we want to live dictates the tools we use.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The style of house you want to build dictates the materials you buy. Right? The type of car you want to drive determines the type of floor mats you get, like all these things, right?
Sure.
So you don't let the means dictate the ends. It's the other way around. So we said, what do you want life to look like? They had those traveling plans, spending time with kids and grandkids, traveling and seeing the world. Okay. So what budgets do we need to build for that? And we walked through that. And then once we kind of reverse engineered it out from the destination for them was travel, grandkids times. I think they do 1.5, like 6 weeks down in Florida every winter.
Okay.
And so we kind of said, all right, based on that, what does our portfolio need to look like to guarantee or sustain that as much as possible, right? You cannot produce guaranteed market returns. You cannot guarantee tax brackets for the future. You cannot guarantee geopolitical things around the world. What you can do is you can give your portfolio parts to play. Just like when an orchestra is playing, every instrument has its own part to play. Mm-hmm. They do their thing. It all works together in this beautiful symphony that does give you a soundtrack, and it's wonderful, and we love the sound, and it's a wonderful thing. However, they're not all playing the same note at the same time. That's like a warm-up scale. Instead, they're all doing their part and adding color and texture and power and grace and this beautiful thing. That's how a portfolio works. Not everything in your portfolio should be providing you income. Some of it has to provide you growth and future opportunities. Some of it needs to be saying, hey, you know what? I don't need it right now, but in 3 years, we're planning on redoing the kitchen, and I'd like some money set aside for that. Other stuff is your monthly bills, and how do I make sure that we have everything covered? So we need to give our portfolio parts to play and let it do its job. So when we take some portion, like we were talking about earlier, maybe you segment some of this money off for income. If you have a $1 million portfolio and we say, all right, if I take $300,000, set it over here in something that's a fixed income investment, whether it's a fixed income portfolio or an annuity or whatever. Now that $300,000 plus my Social Securities, maybe a pension, means that I'll never have to worry about my monthly income the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. Well, now the other $700,000 can be opportunistic. We can start, say, the next 5 years worth of spending, make it a certain risk level. The next 10 years of spending, risk that up and so on. Mm-hmm. And any money we want to leave to kids or grandkids, that's a different portfolio. So we want to give it a purpose.
Okay.
And again, just like the orchestra, right? There's a reason why the tubas and the flutes don't play the same thing, right? When a tuba plays, it's powerful, it's sustaining, it gives you some support to the sound, and that's your income. When a flute or a violin or a viola, when they play, it's beautiful and it's fun and it's flighty and it goes all over, and that's the opportunity. That's how a portfolio works. Give it a part to play, all in the same sheet of music, all run by one conductor, doing his job to make them all coordinate together, but yet let them do their part. That way you can enjoy the soundtrack of retirement. You can enjoy the life that you're living, that you've been dreaming of living, and it is a beautiful melody that you get to walk out. It doesn't have to be stressful just because the market's down. It doesn't have to be negative because we're in a conflict with Iran. It doesn't have to be hanging on the fact that we're in a midterm election year. You can make decisions now that protect you against the future what ifs. We always say future you is counting on today you to make a few good decisions. And one of them is giving us a call at 616-512-2127 to set your retirement up on your terms. 616-512-2127, or reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com.
Mike and his team, they're here to help guide you through this process, because at the end of the day, the goal is that you're going to retire one time. But Mike and his team, they're retiring every single day. We're helping folks do that. So they got a wealth of knowledge in their pocket that they're ready to share with you. MichigansRetirementCoach.com is our website where you can go to start the conversation with Mike and his team, or click on the links we got posted in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Michigan's Retirement Coach with Mike Douglas. To learn more, visit MichigansRetirementCoach.com.
Michael Douglas is an investment advisor representative of Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Michael Douglas is licensed in your state, please call 517-323-7526. Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Michael B. Douglas, NPN number 9650939.